Welcome. And it looks like attendees are still coming in, so we'll give it another moment. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. We still have a few people coming in, but I would just like to welcome you all to the Smart Star Conference and to this session, 2Gen and the Race Manifesto, the Tools for Change. Caroline Austin and Janine McMahon will be presenting today, and we're very excited to have them, so thank you both so much. As a reminder, this is a 90-minute session. And if you could please mute your microphones while the presenters are presenting, just so that we can hear all the wonderful things they have to say. Additionally, there will be a raffle prize provided at the end of the session, sponsored by Lakeshore, and there is an additional sponsorship session taking place at 11:45 for 30 minutes. And we are providing an opportunity for a larger raffle entry prize by attending all 6 sponsorship sessions. So just to keep that in mind for upcoming sessions. And additionally, you can get information about this session within the conference description on the conference website. We'll also be posting the link in the chat. And we would love your feedback about the session via our conference session survey link, which we will also be posting in the chat. So thank you so much, Janine. Thank you so much, Caroline. I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I am going to share my screen. 1 second. So today, myself and Caroline will be presenting on 2Gen and the Manifesto for Race. And these are tools for change. I'm gonna have Caroline introduce herself. I'm going to introduce myself. We're gonna do a little icebreaker, and then we're gonna dive right in because there's a lot of info to share, and we are looking forward to questions at the end. Thank you guys for having us, and thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you everyone for attending. We were shocked to find out how many attendees were going to come into our session. So we're very, very honored and happy that everyone decided to choose us and choose this topic today. And thank you, Jessica, again for everything. My name is Caroline Austin. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I currently live in Hartford, Connecticut. I am a parent leader, network steering committee member of the CSSP. And Janine says I get it wrong all the time, and that's just my nerves. So I do get nervous, but please bear with me. So the Center for the Study of Social Policy. I am a Hartford Family Center network parent advisor, a Connecticut Family School Partnership parent consultant, 2Gen board member, co-founder of the 2Gen Parent Academy, a community health worker, center-based advisory council chair for the Hartford Family Center, the Asylum Hill Family Center, part of the network, and Office of the Early Childhood Parent Cabinet Planning and Implementation Team. And that's a lot, but it's so much more because I'm also a mom of 3 children. You know, you kind of come on. I'm a mom of 3 children, 27-year-old son who is currently on his path to greatness, no longer lives in the house. And then I have a 17-year-old graduating from school in a couple of weeks, and a 12-year-old that turns 13 in a couple of days. So a lot of changes during this pandemic and just life. So that's about me. Janine?
So again, thank you guys for having me. I am Janine McMahon. I'm a parent leadership coordinator and financial stability specialist working with Catholic Charities here in Hartford, Connecticut. I am a curriculum-based program facilitator, a national parent advisor and presenter, which is why we're here today, parent consultant, director of the ANA board, that's the Asylum Hill Neighborhood Association, 2Gen parent engagement co-chair and co-founder of the 2Gen Parent Academy, which we'll dive into a little later, a contributor to the Office of Early Childhood Parent Cabinet Planning and Implementation Team, and I'm an equity champion. And like Caroline, I'm the mother of 2. I have an 18-year-old and I have a 10-year-old. And I'm so excited to be here and to be able to present today because in about 10 years ago, I was in the insurance field doing work that wasn't quite fulfilling for me. And I was introduced to social work and nonprofit and government, and really was invited into spaces where I could share and contribute to change. And this is why we're here today. We're here to pretty much share our story and to show you how implementing certain things and doing certain shifts and shifting mindset could move changes, system changes, policy changes, but also improve overall well-being for children and families across the country.
So right now we're gonna start with an icebreaker. And so it's basically saying your name, where you're from, your title or position, and sharing one positive thing that changed in your life as a result of the pandemic. I guess go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say maybe we should ask everyone to put it in the chat, and then we read off a couple since we have so many attendees in our session, because that would definitely take up about an hour of our time.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. So, but I'll take a moment and start, because I was thinking while I was dropping my daughter off coming back from the gym. Well, my name is Caroline Austin, and I thought about what could I say that I'm grateful for? One positive thing that changed in my life as a result of the pandemic. So currently, although I do community health work, I am doing community engagement consulting work as well. And so this is, to me, a part of the work that I get to do. So we'll call that my title, right? And then a thing that changed in my life for the positive, I would say, is the relationship with my children. I have wanted to homeschool. I homeschooled my son for a little while, and I've been wanting to homeschool for a long time, but just didn't have either the resources or, the strength, right? It's a lot. And the supports are necessary. And so having them so close and being able to be engaged in their work and being able to have them wake up in the morning, come down, and us keeping a schedule has just increased our relationship and our conversation and our openness. And so that is a positive thing for me that changed as a result of the pandemic.
Well, so I'll go, and I guess maybe we could call on a few people then, Caroline. I'm seeing all these wonderful things in the chat, and a lot of it is geared around, building that relationship with family. I guess for me, one of the positives was having to shift to this virtual space and teaching and facilitating in this virtual space, but then having my children see me in my work, like and they've seen me in person before, but I think it's a little different. While they're sitting here, we're kind of sharing same space, and they're really paying attention to what's happening and learning and really understanding the type of work that we're doing. I think for me, that's one of the positive changes. And as a result of some of the work that I'm doing, my daughter decided that she wanted to write a book. And so I think this summer, we are going to be celebrating that win for her of because of her exposure to the work that we've been doing. And I can't wait to share the book, to share her story, for her to share her insight, for her to share what two generational strategies and approaches through the lens of a child, right? And I think a lot of the times in our work, we always hear from parents. We always invite parents to the table, and some of the times we forget the kids. And so that for me is one of the positive things that happened as a result of the pandemic. I'm going to stop my screen share for a sec. And if anybody would like to share with us, use the raised hand function. If you go to the bottom of your screen, you'll see the reactions, and you can raise your hand, and we'll be happy to hear from at least, I don't know, like about 5 people maybe, Caroline?
Yes, that's fine. And I got to apologize. I know you see me distracted. My daughter's calling. My daughter is calling, so I apologize. So I will look for the raised hands. Wow, there's so many people. Thank you so much.
Well, I'll read a few, I guess, from the chat. I see Betty. She's originally from Michigan, and she's now in Lexington, North Carolina. And she's a teaching and learning specialist for Smart Start. And a positive change for her was the courage to take the leap and change to a new position and company. That is awesome.
That is awesome.
To be able to do that in the midst of a pandemic, high five. I give you double high fives. Congratulations for that. Let's see. We have Onika Royal. She is from North Carolina. She is a family care coordinator, and she's seen resilience of communities affected by the same affliction of the pandemic. That is definitely one positive thing that came out of this. Like, I've seen strength within families that I didn't know existed, even within myself and my family. So that's a really good one. I'll read one more. Let's see. We have a bunch flying in. Raquel, she's from Sampson County. She's a Sampson County Parents as Teacher program. She loves being close to her 32-year-old and his wife. She talks with families about their children experiences and homeschool and helping them. That is really important because I know that distance learning has been quite the challenge. So for you to step into that space and be able to provide help and assistance to families during that time, that is really amazing. Thank you for sharing that. All right. We'll catch up with some of the others that are in the chat. I'm going to share my screen again. 1 second.
And while you're doing that, welcome to the newcomers. If you can, please put your name in the chat, where you are from, your title, and one thing that really impacted you positively during the pandemic. As you may see in the chat, some people, and they come in afterwards, that's what they're doing. And we would love to be able to see that and connect with you.
All right, so we're gonna dive right in. We're gonna be talking about 2Gen, and we're gonna be talking about 2Gen and the Manifesto for Race Equity. And we're gonna start off with 2Gen. What is it? I'm sorry, my slides are technical difficulties in the Zoom space. Sorry. All right. So what is 2Gen? So in 2014, the state of Connecticut was one of 2 states, Colorado was the other state at the time, taking the first steps toward adapting a statewide two-generational approach, a policy. In May of 2019, this policy was made into law, right? The goal of the two-generational approach is family economic stability through quality learning for the child, pathways to work for the parent, and related support services. Under an optimal two-generational structure, bureaucracy is scaled back and the parent and child receive direct services and support as a family. And this was one of the things that came out initially when we started the 2Gen program here in Connecticut, the policy, the approach, and then we actually had a pilot program that was piloted by Catholic Charities in 2017. The approach actually drives policy change, service collaboration, and mindset shifts to propel partnerships between government, agencies, and parent or caregivers to advance parents to career advancement and children to educational success. The intent is to improve child outcomes and family well-being while keeping parents and caregivers at the center of design and decision-making. And one of the things that we realized was important for parents to be at the table and to be able to contribute to these changes, contribute to creating policy, changing systems, is that they had to have a knowledge and understanding of systems and policies, how they work, how change happens. So we realized that parent leadership development was necessary. Caroline, you're muted.
I just realized, sorry, thank you. The two-generational approach to parent leadership and development, how can this approach be applied? It can be applied in many different ways. Some of the ways are to partner with parents by using the family, by partnering with the family as a whole. So it is not just going and seeing the mom. The mom comes in for services and the mom gets a service and that's it. It is the mom comes in for services, the dad needs services, whether the dad lives in the home or not. The dad is serviced with their needs, and then there are other children in the home as well. And so no matter how old those children are, up to the age of 18, I believe, could be 17, even though 2Gen is one birth to 8, so to speak, you can't leave out the other children and the other caregivers in the home, like maybe grandma or uncle or auntie, or, so your sisters, brothers, things like that. And so it's the holistic family and not just the parent. It's important to understand that family structure and dynamics and assesses and addresses the needs of the entire family, like I said. And so the agencies provide childcare for all programs. So you come in and we do dinner and a story at Catholic Charities, which is a very popular program. And while doing dinner and a story, a lot of families come in and they bring their children, and that's an opportunity for the families to engage with their children, read to their children, take part in the activity, and have dinner as well. However, sometimes we may have a program, something like Cooking Matters, where we're teaching the benefits of cooking healthy meals for under $10 for a family of 4, for example. And that opportunity, we can't really have children in the kitchen, right? So we have childcare for that. Or we do something like People Empowering People, which is a facilitation model for parents to learn how to communicate with their community, communicate with their families, communicate with their children in a more efficient way. And children being in the room at that time, we touch on a lot of sensitive topics, so it's not optimal. So then we have childcare for those times, or the family comes in, the mom and dad need assistance, and having the child in the room at that particular moment may not be optimal. So we have a childcare room off to the side where the child can go be monitored and still and be safe, and the parent can or caregiver can take care of their needs. And so that's what that means. We include parents in the design and implementation of agency programming. And this may be a little bit of a sore spot for some agencies. And some of the things that we're going to say is not maybe standard practice. And for some agencies, it is standard practice. However, a lot of times parents are ask questions. What do you need? What do you want to see? And they take a survey and they take some notes, and they basically use the parent for their expertise, but don't compensate that parent, don't include them from the inception. When you're designing something for a parent, we look at it from a standpoint, and as parents, we don't want someone to tell us this is what you need, because that's generally not always effective. We want to be able to be a part of that planning, to be able to say this is what we need. So we'll talk a little bit more about the 2Gen Parent Academy later on, but that was a great example about what we need. And when we were brought to the table, and asked what we needed, we were able to lend our voice to these policies and these changes. And including, so that's including parents and assisting parents with updating resumes, LinkedIn profiles, reflecting trainings, and learn skills. So a lot of times you may not have a college degree. However, you may have a lot of lived experience. You may have worked in an agency, you may have volunteered in different agencies in different capacities. Those are not experiences that are not valid. Your experiences are very valid and they mean something. And so we show parents how, and it's sort of like peer-to-peer education, where we're able to work with other parents to say, this is how you do this. This is how you update your LinkedIn profile. I remember at one point, I didn't understand how to utilize my LinkedIn profile, and I need to even update it again. However, someone showed me, they talked to me, they walked me through it. Working on my resume, Janine does a great job with resumes, where she can take your resume and split it. If you had life experience over 3 different, we do different jobs as parents and as people, we have different talents. She's able to take those talents and put them into different resumes to speak to different positions, so that they're not just looking at one thing, right? They're not just looking all of this stuff on one resume. It could get confusing. So those are some of the ways that the 2-generational approach to parent leadership and development can be applied. And also, it's not here, but I talked about PEP, but there are many different programs that we use for parent development, facilitation and moderation, doing things like dual capacity learning, where if a staff is getting trained, you have staff meetings and staff is getting trained. Parents are invited to lunch and learn, to take on the same training, so that what staff knows, parents know. And it brings a sort of accountability to the staff, to your staff if you're a director, where parents know this is what's supposed to happen. But it also brings accountability to parents to know this is how you're supposed to behave. And there's an order to things, not just coming in and expecting things. And they're able to now teach the other parents what the protocols are when they come into your centers and your agencies. So that's just another point that I wanted to make as well.
I think one of the things that's important to mention here is that we don't just provide childcare, but childcare, the programming, the learning in childcare mirrors what the parents are actually doing in class as well. So if we're doing a civic democracy training for parents, there is a child-friendly version that's being offered. So it's not just parent development, parent leadership and advancement, but it's also child/youth development, leadership and advancement as well.
Very true.
So we mentioned on the previous slide that you have to partner with parents in order for a 2-generational approach to work. You have to partner with parents for successful advancement and development. So what does true authentic partnership with parents look like? So Caroline and I are both members of the Connecticut Family School Partnership Advisory Council. And this is a group of individuals who come from the school system. We have principals, we have folks from the Board of Education, we have folks from our magnet schools, and then CBOs, and then parents. And Caroline and I sit in the parent capacity, parent consultant capacity to this work. And as a team, we came up with this definition of family engagement and authentic partnership. And we said that family engagement is a full, equal, and equitable partnership among families, educators, and community partners to promote children's learning and development from birth through college and career. This is working together in unison, in true partnership with parents and their children and their family members, identifying what the goals and dreams of this family is, and really supporting them to get to that end goal. So a lot of the times in our work, we hear meet families or meet people where they are. We want to meet people where they dream. We want to be navigators in their lives. So we see parents and families and children as the drivers, right, of their life. And if you think of the navigation system in a car, the driver puts in that final destination, and then the navigation, the system takes that individual on a path to get to that final stop. And that's what we see ourselves as in this work. Well, not well, I say we because I actually function in two different capacities or spaces. I wear two hats. So I'm a staff, but I'm also a parent. I'm a parent first. I got into this work because of my civic engagement. And so I wear both hats. So when I talk, I talk using both hats. And as a staff, I see myself as that navigation system. And if that family that I'm working with takes a wrong turn, I'm going to reroute and get them back on track and get them back on path to that final destination, to that dream. So it's starting where they are. Yes, we do meet them where they are, but the real goal is to meet them where they dream.
Thank you, Janine. And so the two-generational strategy, and I'll try to simplify it. Sorry. I don't know how to silence, to be honest, this computer and my phone. So it's just going to keep ringing I silence my phone, it comes to the computer. So I apologize. But the two-generational strategy is full of is a multi-dimensional approach that it adds up to one thing, and that's family self-sufficiency, right? And so we do have post-secondary and career pathways. I highlight that first because we do believe that it is important to be able to take a CNA from being a CNA to being a nurse practitioner. And to help the families, or to help to get the individual to dream big, and not to just look at it from, I'm a CNA, and I'll just, full transparency, in Connecticut for a while, using the CNA model. In Connecticut for a while, you became a CNA and that was it. You want to go back to school, you got to pay, and there's no bridge program, and whatever experience you have as a CNA, it's not going to benefit. It's going to benefit you because you have the experience. However, there are no credits, right? And so when you go to college now, you have to start all over. So even if you took English and you took math and you have these basic things, you got to test into it. And if you're not a great test taker, then you're not going to do so well on the test. And now you got to take a remedial course, if this is making sense, right? We have been able to, and I'm very grateful for, as much as sometimes, places that you live may anger you because they don't do this and they don't do that. I am grateful for the fact that in Connecticut, they've been able to form a bridge program where if you're a CNA, you can now go from being a CNA to an LPN, from an LPN to an RN, from an RN to an APRN. That is the beauty of a program like this, because now you have these post-secondary and career pathways that will take you from your beginning, where you needed a job and you got a job, to your career. And that speaks to all different levels of education, all different areas of education. We have literacy, which is the foundation of education. We have adult and child attachment, which speaks to the relationship between, I spoke earlier about the relationship between me and my children and how it's gotten so much better because we've been able to not just stay home and spend time together because I pray for the families that have to be in abusive situations, but taking programs like People Empowering People, taking programs like the Parent Leadership Training Institute program, PLTI, which is nationwide, taking programs like Communities Organizing for Issues, Kofi, things of that nature has helped me to look at myself first and look at how I behave and how, even going back, there's a program, Mind in the Making, and Janine, you did one. You're a facilitator and it always escapes me, but it's where you go back and you look at your childhood and you look at the things that you've done in your childhood or that have happened to you in your childhood, that generational trauma that we pass on unknowingly to our children. And we start to realize why we behave the way we behave, why we interact with people as women to men, the way we interact, feel the way we feel about them, or women, how our relationships are, and start to work on them and really do the work. We help families to do that work. And it's an internal process that you're able to now engage your children in and change so that your children do not grow up with the same generational traumas that you've had to grow up with. And it's not, most of the time, it's not someone's fault, right? We do, there's ACEs. Yes, ACEs. There is that. You know what I mean? And so these things are a way to gauge what's going on in the family, right? So that you can now raise your family better and get them to a higher place. If you, sometimes we say, oh well, my father didn't go to college, my mother didn't go to college. You may not have made it to college, but your children now have a better foundation to stand on so they can make that, if that is what they want to do. And then school readiness, because education begins at home, right? And so we help the families to learn how to engage their children in an effective way educationally so that they are ready for school when it's time to go into nursery, preschool, and their educational foundation is strong. They know how to read, they can do their numbers, they can say their name, they can write their name, all of these things. I could go on. And then also family engagement and social capital. I'll go with social capital first. What is social capital? Social capital is you need to run to the store. You don't have a babysitter. You need to take a class. You don't have someone to watch the kids. You need to go pick up this other kid, and this kid is home and is giving you a hard time. And oh my gosh, I just wish someone could. Oh, yeah, I have a neighbor. I have a friend. I have an uncle. I have an aunt, someone that can fill in the gap and stand in the gap to help you take care of your family. And a lot of times we build these networks, we don't even realize that we have the amount of social capital that we have. Another example of social capital would be you're at a family center and you have the women and the men in the family center that have all these different skills and you want to put on an event. Where do you go? Sometimes you're thinking, I have to do all of this by myself and I'm really not sure. I don't have these skills. I don't know how to go about it. And you have this conversation with a friend or an acquaintance at the family center. And the next thing you know, this person says, I could do that. I could help you with that. And then you're having a conversation and someone else comes along and they say, oh, well, I know someone who knows how to do that. And the next thing you know, your event is happening, probably low cost or free. But even if it's not, you've been able to capitalize on the capital, the social capital, your network, so that you can get your event done and you can benefit everyone, learn new experiences and things of that nature, and family engagement. So that's social capital. And then we have family engagement where you're going out. Sometimes it's knocking on doors, but it's getting the family to be engaged in the center so that they can feel like they are filled and they can go out and bring other people in to benefit from what they have benefited from. And it starts with coming in for a service and it ends up with doing policy work at the state capitol because you've been engaged in the right way by staff, because this also has to do with how staff interacts with you. It has to do with how you're taught basically to interact with staff. And it's a learned experience. Sometimes it's not just innate. It's something that has to be learned, and it's something that has to be taught. And so to be able to engage the family in a way where they feel like they want to be a part of this family center, and then go from being a part of the family center to being on an advisory council in the family center to advising the work to being added to grant writing opportunities and things of that nature, would be what family engagement and social capital are. Janine? So the Two Gen Parent Academy. We talk about family engagement. When we were asked to come to the table, we came to the table and we were giving our input. One of the examples of our input would be a family member as a man. Fatherhood, so big, so major. We had a father. We have a father. His name is Stefan, and he came to the table and he said, "Why can't fathers get the same opportunities that mothers are getting?" I go to the Y, and the Y doesn't have this program. And these programs are all offered to all the moms. When I go to the centers, they're not offering me the same thing. And in these meetings where we were engaged and at the table and speaking to the grant of the initial Two Gen initiative, he was told that the reason why you don't get the same opportunities as the mothers are getting is because of the initial grants. So when the grants come to the agencies, they're specifically slated for mothers, for women and children, but not fathers. And so they had to, and we are still in the process of working on having grants reworded so that when they come down the pike to the agencies and they're putting in that application, that they speak to the entire family, to Gen, the multi-generational approach. And not just the mothers and children, because there are a lot of single fathers out there that are taking care of their children that are not allowed and afforded the same opportunities. And so, excuse me, we were invited after being in these meetings and sometimes feeling marginalized and unheard, or just that, yeah, thank you, that was great, we'll call you when we need you again. We were asked to come to the table and to have a meeting. We asked for a meeting actually with Elaine Zimmerman, who wrote the initial grant for Two Gen in Connecticut. And we said, we do not feel heard. We don't feel listened to. And we don't want to be invited into the table, take all of our ideas. Yes, we need transportation. We need this, we need that. And then, thank you, we'll get back to you, and don't hear anything about it until everything is said and done. And she said, well, what would you like to see happen? And so we came up with the concept, the four parents that sat at the table at the time, with the Two Gen Parent Academy, which was a day that spoke about everything Two Gen. We spoke about at the time it was the No Child Left Behind Act, and what parents needed to know about that act, things that were relevant to our time. And we're actually getting ready to do another one, and we're choosing topics that are relevant to today's, like the pandemic, to speak about how parents pivot, shift, resources, things of that nature. We had HUD come to the table and give a presentation on housing. We had entrepreneurship. That's something that they were not looking at as a viable way of increasing your financial stability. We got them to write entrepreneurship in, and we do great work with entrepreneurship. And we had several different programs that it's a lot to mention. Janine, you can go ahead and speak to it, because
let me chime in. So one of the main reasons or that we thought the academy was necessary was that Two Gen, this approach, this initiative, this pilot that was about to happen was new to the state of Connecticut. Families weren't aware of it, and other residents within the state weren't aware of it. And there were some individuals that were in the workforce that wasn't aware of what Two Gen is, or have a really good understanding of how this approach would work, or how it should be applied, or the benefits of it, the outcomes that they were looking for. So we thought that it would be a day of learning and sharing. So we invited philanthropists, nonprofit heads, individuals from the government. We had senators, we had legislators there, we had state representatives, and we had parents. Parents was they were the focal point of the academy. And one of the workshops that we decided to do was using your voice and telling your story, really teaching parents how to frame their story so that it is impactful and so that it is well received to government officials or a nonprofit agency, so they could really understand some of the systems and changes that are necessary to address the needs of the people. A lot of the systems that we're working on now were implemented way back in the day, right? Without community input. You know how they say nothing for us without us? We were really trying to move in that direction where your voices were heard, received, and changes were implemented. And I think one of the highlights of our contribution to the 2Gen work here in Connecticut is that we were able to effectively change some of the literature that was in the legislation to incorporate that entrepreneurship piece, that fatherhood piece, and some of the other things that Caroline mentioned previously. So the academy was a day of sharing, it was a day of learning, and it was a day to share space across difference, across race, across gender, across socioeconomic status, and across titles. And it was a success. And one of the main things that we did was offer childcare. And this happened at our legislative office building because we wanted parents, not that parents are not empowered, but we wanted them to feel empowered in that day, in that moment, and understand that this building is for you. You are welcomed here. There were parents who said, I've never been in this building. I didn't even know that we can come here. And so it was a day, it was an awakening, right? I guess for residents and for government to be able to share space and learn about this new initiative that was coming to the state, and it was very successful. All right, so one of the things that we need to dissect is equity versus equality, and we're going to go into this right before we start talking about the manifesto, the Race, Equity, and Parent Leadership Manifesto. And so we just want to know, what is the difference? What is the difference between equity and equality? And we could use the raised hand function, or maybe somebody wants, no, I don't want anyone to put it in the chat. I would love for someone to share with us the difference between equity and equality. Or you could just unmute maybe, if you're unable to find the raised hand function.
Hi, this is Edward Chisholm from Kinston, North Carolina, Partnership for Children in North Greene County. Great presentation. But I think equity is getting that which you need. Equality is everybody getting the same thing.
Very spot on. Thank you so much for chiming in. And then we have La Gentry. Did I say your name correctly? I see you with the raised hand.
Yes, correctly. Equality is when we all have the same things, maybe even the same access to the same things. Mm-hmm. Equity is having access to the same thing and then having whatever it takes to make opportunities from the access. So just being welcome to it is equality. Equity is having the tools to actually do something with it.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, La Gentry. Thank you both for sharing. So we're gonna go into this illustration, which is one of my favorites. So equality is exactly what you just said. Everybody on the same level playing field, receiving the same thing and having the same access. Equity is giving to those who might need a little bit more so that everyone succeeds. Liberation, though, is removing all barriers, right? Removing all barriers so that the access can be done based on the ability of the individual, right? But then the reality, and this is the reality that a lot of our families face, this is the reality that a lot of families face, is that the ones that have and don't quite need receives more, and the ones that are in need are struggling they lack access, they lack knowledge of how to access resources. They are provided the access, but they don't receive the assistance that is needed. And that could be based on a lot of different factors, race being one of those factors. And that's why we're going to dive into the Race, Equity, and Parent Leadership Manifesto. But I take this a bit further and I talk about justice, right? Justice in this illustration would be those three individuals that are behind the fence, or even in liberation where the fence is removed, actually sitting in the bleachers with everyone else enjoying the game, as opposed to being on the outskirts. And that's where we need to get to. And in order to get there, we have to be able to embrace parents, embrace their experience, embrace their expertise based on their experience, knowledge, and training, and incorporate the right changes that are necessary to propel families to overall well-being, economic success, great health outcomes, and all of the above.
So awesome. Thank you. So the Manifesto for Race, Equity, and Parent Leadership in Early Childhood Systems was created by parents. However, it was facilitated by the Center for the Study of Social Policy. Did I say that right?
Got it.
Right. It's a running joke between the two of us, and EC Link. And so where it all began, a group of 40 parent leaders and agency staff from 9 EC Link communities. I think right now we're up to about 15 EC Link communities. So we are growing. It's either between 12 and 15. I apologize. I should have. Is it 12? Okay.
I think it's 12.
Okay. With support, but we do have visiting communities that come in and that are looking to get involved. So that's the other 3. With support from the CSSP staff and consultants, came together to create this manifesto for race, equity, and parent leadership in early childhood systems. This picture that you see here represents all of us that were asked to come from all of our communities to Oakland, California, to attend this 3-day training. It wasn't even a training. It was amazing. We came into the room not knowing what to expect. We heard that we were going to create this manifesto, but no one knew what that was. Like, it was coming together to give some ideas on race equity. That's all we thought it was. But we didn't know that we were creating a document, a running, standing document that we would be able to take to different agencies, or take to the state, or take to throughout the nation, and speak to the needs of the families in that respective area. And we went in that, we arrived in Oakland, we met with all these families the first day, did an icebreaker, sat at our respective tables, staff and families integrated. And the questions came, and we had some papers, you know how you do your papers up, the large sheets, you stick them on the wall, you ask the questions.
It was a World Cafe.
Yes, it was a World Cafe model. So if you've ever had an encounter with the World Cafe, it's a way to do a meeting that allows people, you're not telling them what they need, or you're not telling them what the answers are. You're asking them questions, asking them to dive deep and tell you what they're thinking as far as their answers are. So it gives you an opportunity to know what people are thinking, and what their knowledge base is, and how much they know. And then you meet them there to give them the information that they need, so that they can then form not just opinions, but form their action plans and their next steps for change in their communities. So
I think what was great is that they divided the parents and the staff, And in this World Cafe, each paper that was around the room had a different question that had to be dissected by staff, by parents, and then both of the responses were combined.
Yeah.
And that was a really, really unique experience for us.
The really, really unique experience, I know for a lot of us, was that the answers were the same. A lot of the answers were the same. The staff thought the same things that parents thought when asked these questions. And so it wasn't a matter of there's differences because we're parents. And so you guys are staff, you get paid, you see things differently. But now it's a matter of, okay, so we all think the same. So how do we put this together so that we can make it happen? Next slide.
So the preamble to the manifesto, I'm so sorry. The preamble to the manifesto was to ensure that all children have equitable outcomes in education, health, and life. And we must view engaging parents as developing their leadership as a critical mission. And that's why we actually combined our 2Gen work with the manifesto work, because it marries so well, it aligns so well. The focus is the same, because the end result in all of this is ensuring that families are economically and emotionally successful and stable, and children have great educational outcomes. We want to work with families, early childhood systems, to improve outcomes for their kids, but face barriers. The manifesto and its 5 commitments for change, which we will dissect a little later. And this manifesto builds on the groundbreaking work of strengthening families, which is at the heart of what we do.
So our vision for race equity, you see this wall here? We were asked some questions and we had to, so this is it's a sticky wall. I don't even know how to explain it. It's a sticky wall. It's like a huge piece of plastic that had glue on it. And we were asked to, what is your vision for your community? What do you want to see happen on your block, in your neighborhood, in your state? And we were asked different questions and we wrote them down and we stuck them up on this wall, and they were able to be streamlined. And this is just a small section of the wall. The wall was a very large wall, and I have to commend EC Link and CSSP because the staff and the consultants took all of these papers and put them into what is now the Race Equity Manifesto. Parents were at the center, definitely at the center of their vision, our vision for race equity. And we participate at all levels, that we would be valued as experts, that we are powerful leaders. And these are things that we needed to know within ourselves so that we could do the work effectively, whether it's continuing to do the work effectively, or some of us found our voice at that particular event. These are the things that we put together and that we learned and we took away. It's like great takeaways from our event. Go ahead, Janine, next slide.
So our beliefs on race equity and parent leadership: all children reach their fullest potential, no matter their race or ethnicity. Parents are included in their child's learning and healthy development because they are seen as true partners, advocates, and leaders. And this particular thing actually drove a lot of the decisions that were made when we shifted our kids from in-school learning to distance learning, because what the state did was convene parents and school staff and talked about what distance learning should be. Really ask parents what supports they would need and try their best to provide those supports. And although it wasn't a smooth situation, right? We had a lot of hiccups with distance learning. I think the ability to hear parents, understand parents, and do their best to try to provide for the needs of the parents and children at home during that time actually helped to make the distance learning process a lot easier here in the state. Parents are invited to be partners in early childhood systems. One of the things that we mentioned before that we're involved in is the OEC Parent Cabinet Planning Committee. And that is where we're inviting a bunch of parents to sit and talk with the commissioner of OEC and their staff to talk about what their experiences are accessing childcare, accessing work, accessing transportation to get to work and childcare, and trying to really devise some type of plan, some type of structure, implement some new systems to support parents in the struggles that they are having, and to remove the barriers so that they can be successful. Achieving race equity in early childhood systems mean that systems that serve young children and their families must change. We've been doing much of the same for so many years, and we understand and recognize that change is necessary. So why race equity and parent engagement? Racism plays a major role in shaping and reinforcing equitable outcomes for children and families. Authentically engaging parents has great potential to create and expand positive and equitable outcomes for children. And I think the word authentic, I have to stress authentic, because a lot of the times agencies, government, they'll invite parents to the table, but it's not true and authentic partnership. It's kind of, we have to check this box. So we're going to invite these parents in and we're going to have them there. But what needs to happen is really authentically listening to the voices of the parents and making effort. I think that's the other word that's important. The changes don't happen overnight, but the effort to make the change is what makes the difference in a lot of families and parents. Implicit bias, access to opportunities and power influence how families engage and lead within communities. Again, helping families to understand the power of their voice, to understand the power of their position, to understand that their input matters, could really move systems in a different direction. Everybody wins in the end. Government wins, families win, and it's literally showing how these wins would happen. Over time, families won't need government supports anymore. Families will be thriving on their own. The return on investment for the government is huge if we literally apply some of these strategies now. We're embedding true leadership and understanding in the kids as well. Because as we mentioned before, we're doing leadership trainings with the parents, and the kids learning is mirroring what the parents are doing. Over time, that need for government assistance, I'm not going to say it's going to be obsolete, but it will seriously diminish over time if we truly authentically embrace families and support them in their journey and their advancement.
Before you come off of the slide, I really just wanted to touch on one more thing, and that was amazing, Janine, because it's so right. But implicit bias, and I think it's important that we really just touch on what implicit bias is and acknowledge and give a little space for that, right? So implicit bias is where we look at someone else and have a prejudice, if I may. You look at someone, and prejudice is not always color. It's not just a color thing. So you come from a different area, you look at that person, oh, you're from the North End? I've heard of people from the North End. I know how they are. Oh, you're from the South End? Oh, they all hang out over there. I know what it's like in the South End. We don't hang with those people. Oh, you're from Jamaica? Everybody needs 100 jobs. Oh, you're from America? Oh, you're like this. Oh, you're from Africa? Oh, people in Africa, the continent, they're all like this. Implicit biases are the things that we think we know about people, and we don't always give them the space to be who they are because we can't see past what we think they are. And so a lot of times that holds us back from accepting the help and yes, Jeannie. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the comments. So you know what I'm talking about, Jeannie. We do not allow people to be who they really are because we are so busy thinking something about them when that person can be a transplant from a whole other state and happen to get an apartment on maybe what's known as the worst street in Hartford. And they don't even know that they're on the worst street in Hartford because it's an apartment that looks really nice on the inside and they can live there and they know how to, separate themselves and they're involved in so many different community activities. We need to, I think it's important to give space and allow people to show themselves for who they are and accept them for who they are because we want to be accepted for who we are. And there's a way to overcome our implicit biases. And it really does start with what do we want people to know about us and thinking of the way that people are looking at us and knowing that the same measure that we are judging others with, we are judged with the same. So thank you, Janine. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Caroline.
So our manifesto, why parents? We define a parent as anyone who is the primary caregiver of a child. We got a lot of pushback. Maybe I'm not a parent, maybe I'm the aunt. I'm the caregiver, I'm not a parent. But the parent we see for all intents and purposes is the caregiver, the primary caregiver of the child. So it doesn't matter if you're biological, adoptive, foster, a relative, grandparent. That is why we chose parent. Why manifesto? We use this term to make clear our commitment to manifest these 5 commitments that we're going to talk about and to express them, embody them, and realize them in our daily actions and long-term goals. And it's a great way to gauge what we do day to day. Why equity? Equity is distinct from equality, and we spoke about that earlier, because it is giving everyone what they need to be successful where they are. Equality is treating everyone the same, as we talked about. So equity acknowledges that not everyone starts the same place and not everyone has the same needs. And it is our goal to help everyone to finish where they want to be, to get to where they want to be. This manifesto is a guide for early childhood agencies and systems to help them address inequities and racism by giving parents a voice and opportunity to be engaged and lead at all levels of change. We detail the 5 commitments of change that create and promote equitable outcomes for children. And so, the 5 commitments for change. To support equitable outcomes for children and families, we call on leaders in early childhood agencies and systems to challenge racism, to embrace parent leadership, to prioritize the resources, to create the career pathways, and to maximize equitable outcomes. And that is what we're about to pick apart today. We've talked about all of them really, but now you're going to see what the steps are that we chose to tackle this work.
So to eliminate barriers, staff and leaders in early childhood systems must enhance capacity and skills to challenge racism and bias and provide a welcoming and respectful environment for families. And it's literally what Caroline just talked about. Part of that is removing those or addressing those implicit biases. Commit to some of the actions under this commitment is to commit to challenging racism through equity-driven parent engagement and leadership strategies. And it's literally implementing and embedding some of the things that we discussed earlier: parent leadership development and enhancement, offering leadership trainings. There are curriculum-based trainings like Community Organizing for Family Issues, COFI, which is a program that came out of Chicago. There is the Yukon PEP program, People Empowering People, which Caroline talked about before. It's a 10-week curriculum-based program offered through the University of Connecticut. That one is only here in the state. There's also the Parent Leadership Training Institute, which Caroline and I both had the opportunity to graduate from, and now we are facilitators of that curriculum. And it is a 20-week course on enhancing civic skills and democracy. And there's also other levels to leadership and advancement that agencies, government, and others can offer to parents, such as assistance with the resumes, assistance with updating LinkedIn profile, assistance with helping parents to identify the assets that they bring to the table. These are all levels of helping a parent to advance and helping them to develop and to become true leaders. We have to ensure that existing workforce is committed to race equity and parent leadership, and they have the needed knowledge and skills and support. So our staff have to make a commitment, must make a commitment to race equity. They have to understand what race equity is in order to commit to it. Be intentional about respecting, welcoming, and promoting parents as partners at all levels, as their child's first teacher, their best advocate, in planning, implementing, and evaluating programs, and in opportunities for leadership and advocacy. I don't know if Caroline mentioned some of the things that the parents in our family centers do here at Catholic Charities is they actually sit on a review board and an interview board for new hires. They have the ability to ask the necessary questions to new employees coming into the agency. And they actually sit with directors and upper management to discuss that interview and make decisions as to who gets hired and who doesn't. I think that is when I actually started with this agency, and I had the opportunity to do that myself because I started as a volunteer, I was blown away because I had never seen a structure like that before. And it is one of the reasons why I decided to take on this leadership journey. And that journey led me from being a parent and a volunteer within the center to actually working and helping to develop and enhance other parents with their leadership and help them on their leadership journey. So provide training for staff to reflect on and navigate through issues of race, power, and privilege in relationship to families. A lot of the time staff is, I'm gonna use the word ignorant to certain things, right? Sometimes they just don't know. And training is necessary, and redundancy in training is also necessary. It can't just be a one and done. It has to be something that is embedded and reiterated over time. And lastly, build the knowledge, skills, and capacity of policymakers and system leaders to promote race equity and engage families. A lot of the times change has to happen at the head for the others below to really take on and buy into the changes that we're trying to make. And we recognize that and understand that change has to happen at all levels. So there's 5 types of racism. You have individual, interpersonal, institutional, and cultural racism. And then there's structural racism. And we call that a public health crisis. And we're not going to dissect those the different types of racism, which we should, but we're running out of time and we really want to get to your questions. So I'm going to let Caroline move on to commitment number 2. And if you have any questions following this, you want to talk some more about some of these things that we skip over, feel free to reach out to us at the end when we share our contact information.
So to embrace parent leadership, we spoke a lot about that throughout this. The actions are, and you could just go ahead, Janine. Commitment to strengths-based approach with families. Like we said, meeting the families where they dream, but also knowing that the families have certain strengths and skills and capitalizing on those skills for the benefit of the family, and helping them to get to where they need to go, right? Also strengthening the skills that they have, and asking them to identify where they themselves need support. Sharing decision making with parents at every level, the care of their child, the program development, the policy, the funding, is all throughout this presentation because it's so important. Um, Supporting parents who have the desire and the consistency, and they want to actively participate, right, in diverse ways, the planning, the implementing the ideas, the going to the different councils, the going to the foundations and requesting money, the being a part of writing the grants and being a part of the interview board. And even this work goes from the local level and the statewide level and organizing for policy change all the way up to national. With CSSP, I was remiss and I didn't say this, but I'm a part of the National Parent Leadership Network that was formed and born out of this manifesto work, where a few of us got together. We were asked if we wanted to be a part of this network. And what started with 4, we have about almost 30 parents from all the different 12 counties that add to this work, where we do summits and we plan different things, and this is national work that we're doing, and we learn all of this stuff, and now we're able to bring this to you. And we travel when you know there's no pandemic, when we travel from place to place and we do these presentations so that we can bring this manifesto to different agencies and different communities and engage them in our work. Being transparent about how decisions get made is important for agencies to be transparent with the parents, and make the information accessible, and reporting back to the parents how their feedback has implemented the changes and the decisions that are happening. Because we asked you to fill out this survey, we know that this night wasn't working, but this night is. And as a result, we're going to change from Tuesday to Thursday. It's a small thing, but parents know that I gave that input. I said that I can't make it on Tuesdays, and we were thought about. And when a parent feels like they're valued, and when they feel like what they can and can't contribute is heard, and there are allowances made for that parent to be able to contribute the way that they can contribute, you see them want to engage even more. And join and invest with parents in community-based organizations to support the ideas and priorities, like doing a community cleanup, creating a community garden, creating a little job center where you can come in and use the computers and look for jobs, or different ways that you're joining and investing with the community and letting parents have their voice.
I think one thing I want to highlight in embracing parent leadership is the dynamic between myself and Caroline. So I'm the staff and Caroline's the parent, and we're doing this presentation in partnership with each other. We created this presentation, this slide for you guys together. We worked on this together, right? And it was Caroline who said, we have the opportunity to present at this national conference on the work that we've been doing. Let's do it. And initially, I was like, I have so much going on. I don't know if I can. But my parent partner decided this is something that she wanted to do, and I had to make it happen. And full transparency, she did a lot of the work. She was the one who submitted, we talked about it, but she was the one who went ahead and submitted the proposal for us to be here today. And so in partnership, we were able to do this together. That's what real, true, that's how you really embrace parent leaders. You give parents that space, the ability to move things forward the way that they see it fit. This was Caroline's dream. I just helped her to navigate through it, and here we are today. I just wanted to highlight that. So commitment number 3. Go ahead, Caroline.
Just thank you.
You're welcome. Commitment number 3, I'm going to run through this quickly because we really want to get to the questions. So number 3 is to prioritize resources. So to realize the positive impact of parent engagement and leadership, agencies and systems must prioritize funding, time, and resources to make these efforts effective over time. So one of the first actions is to allocate robust resources to develop parent leadership and advocacy, including staffing and staff development, support for families, full participation, and ongoing leadership and development. So that's getting those resources, putting out grants so you can offer these leadership development trainings. Providing the child care, right? Like that's where it says support for families, full participation. Being able to provide the child care, being able to provide food for parents to be engaged and to get that learning and training and development that they need. Provide staff with sufficient time, flexibility, and skills training to build relationships and to be responsive to families in their roles as partners and leaders. One of the things that I love to highlight when I do any of my presentations is that there is a training for staff called family-centered coaching. I took it about 2 years ago and it is amazing. It really helps you to go from this mindset of case management to a mindset of true coaching and partnership with families. And I would be happy, it's not included in our resources, but I would be happy to share the information for that training as well. And then provide ongoing funding for parent engagement, leadership development, and family-centered operations. Being able to give parents stipends for their time, helping parents to understand that their time is valuable and everybody else at the table is getting paid, so should you.
That is so right. Funding for that is extremely important, and providing parents and honoring their time with stipends and financial compensation is very important. And if a parent is not working, but they are giving their time to plan and implement these things, then it's only fair to try to compensate them with something. Creating career pathways. We spoke about the CNA to the APRN, right? Also, I am going to try to run through this quickly. All right, so partner with community-based and parent-led organizations to recruit parent leaders for open positions and providing support and mentorship. Like Janine said, she went from volunteer to staff. And I have to say, we have a really great director now, but we had a great and amazing director then when Janine came on and mentored her and coached her through her training and did it for all of us, and saw something in us that we could continue to do work in different areas of our lives. And so that is something that's super important. To modify job descriptions to substitute, like I said earlier, life experience for educational attainment. I may have 17 to 20 years of this educational experience, but it's not educational, it's life experience. It's organizing, it's, being a chair, doing this, doing that. All of that comes with experience. And so partnering, creating paid positions for parents to become peer educators, system navigators, developmental screeners, and outreach workers, that is self-explanatory, and funding is imperative. Partnering with community colleges to create these accessible programs, the pathways. I became a community health worker because the state partnered with Capital Community College, and they had a scholarship program. I did it for $200, and I didn't have to pay for it because I asked my director and she said, take it. I think you'd be good at it. And so that was something that was created out of just my desire to do it, and the community college and the state working in partnership. And providing ongoing professional leadership development for parents in early childhood career pathways, meaning we have this program in Connecticut where if you want to be a child, what is it called? You have a child care center in your home. they are trained in order to house children, the amount of children that they can have, how to take care of these children, how to childproof your home, things of that nature. And so providing those training in these career pathways, teaching early childhood educators is very important, with long-term goal of diversifying leadership in early childhood systems and organizations such as the OEC parent cabinet and other things of that nature is extremely important, if that makes sense. Commitment number 5.
Last one, and I'll skim through this because we are running out of time. So the last commitment is to maximize equitable outcomes. To maximize equitable outcomes for children and families, agencies and systems must align operations with this goal. So the actions are to use data to measure the impact of and continually improve family engagement efforts and be transparent with results. Transparency goes a very long way in parent engagement and leadership. Use data to identify and track disparities in outcomes, access and engagement for children and families from different racial, ethnic, language, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Diversify staff and leadership to reflect the communities they serve. I have to stress that one, highlight it, circle it. This is so important because when you embed individuals that look like the community that they're serving, you would get the community to open up even more and to be ready and willing to engage because that person can connect with them on a different level. So that is really, really important. And lastly, improve collaboration across community, agencies, and systems to maximize support for children. So one of the things that is happening in the state right now is that we're trying to put together a data system that speaks to each other across agencies. So workforce, the Labor Department is going to talk to Department of Social Services. Information is going to be embedded and shared in a way that is, how should I put it? In a way that the individual, that the user feels comfortable with sharing. We actually had a community cafe to ask the community, how do you feel about the fact that your information is going to be shared across systems so that it will reduce the having to apply multiple times for different services? And there were pros and there were cons, and we took that information and we took it back to our Office of Policy Management, and they're taking that feedback and trying to design a system that is in alignment with what the community shared. And that to me was like the icing on the cake. And then lastly, be accountable for commitments made and hold partners accountable. So we have to hold the parents accountable, and the parents have to hold the staff accountable, and we just have to know and understand how to work together in unison, collaboration, and just move things forward. So these are some of the links. Oh, I am so sorry, moving too fast. These are some of the links that we will be sharing at the end of this presentation, and we will also be willing to share our PowerPoint presentation as well.
I just wanted to highlight also in there, you'll find an assessment. The assessment is an assessment to see if your organization is ready to embrace parents, excuse me, and just how ready your organization is. There are things, and it's quite a lengthy assessment, and we would be willing to go through that assessment with you. We definitely couldn't do it here because it's so long. However, it's a great tool, and you can use it in sections. You don't have to do all of the assessment at once. You can do one part of the assessment and ask these questions of your agency, and then go on to the next part and the next part and the next part. So that is also available, and the link will be updated for you to have access to in what the events cloud that is being posted in the chat. So thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Any questions? We have 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Yeah, we
boy.
can get through it like that.
Margot.
Yeah.
Hello, I have a quick question, and you kind of gave me some ideas within your presentation. This was great. Thank you, ladies, for sharing this great information with us. So I am a member of an organization who tries to get like family engagement. Like they have an after school program, but they struggle with family engagement. And you know, I've also been an educator in the classroom. So a lot of times, you know, if you have food or whatnot, it kind of brings people because they don't have to worry about dinner and those types of things. But this organization is struggling with authentic family engagement, meaning not just giving you resources, but actually like coming to presentations and things. I know you mentioned giving stipends, finding grants or whatnot, so that they can feel like their time is being valued by a stipend per se. Is there other ideas or resources that you can offer until a grant is able to, you know, be acquired?
So I'd say look at it with an equitable lens, first of all. So offer parents the opportunity to join a meeting virtually. Some of the times, especially when things were open, one of the main issues was getting parents to come to the center for a meeting or for a training. And we didn't have this idea of offering these things in a hybrid fashion where we have some people in person and some people online, and giving parents the opportunity to choose because they might not have, you know, the childcare, or they're just not in a position to bring the children, or transportation is limited, or even if we give them a bus pass, they're on the other side of town, but they really do want to engage. Is giving them different opportunities and ways that they could connect to the meeting or whatever it is that you're holding. That would be one of the things that I've realized that has improved over time since the pandemic has happened, has been attendance to different things because of the opportunity to connect virtually or by phone.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Caroline, you have anything to share? Or she can't unmute. All right, well, we will again share the slides.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was clicking on something and it kept going away from the Zoom. I apologize. So I think that that's actually a very good place to start, is looking at it from an equitable outcome. I think for me, there were times where I suffer with sickle cell disease and I wasn't able to make it to certain events. And so being able to attend virtually really, really helped me to stay engaged. And our families, actually, when we were going through the pandemic, we had meetings once a month, and we chose to be engaged every week so that we could keep each other accountable and keep our spirits high. So I really do want to stress that that was something that did help our families. Also, like you said, the food and the stipends, and also asking families, what do you want? Have a meeting and ask them, what do you want? What do you want to see? What do you need? You know, a lot of times we bring families to the table and we want to talk at them about different things. Ask them what they need. And a lot of times they'll tell you what they need, and then work with them and hold them accountable to be able to implement it. Give them delegating some of those opportunities and jobs.
So I see Arnita asked if